Hello viewers, my name is Adam.
And I'm Aaron.
This is Seeking Media Productions bring you another movie review.
I was actually very pleasantly surprised and actually enjoyed this route with going in with the sequel for Beetlejuice. In this case, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice.
You said it 3 times.
No, we good.
This ain't the Candyman situation.
Thank God.
But yeah, this is the long-awaited, anticipated legacy sequel to the original 1988 film, directed by Tim Burton, who's also directing this installment as well.
This film actually takes place quite a few years after the events of the first one, in which the Dietz family was moved into the creepy abode that was once the dwelling of the Maitlands. A tragic couple that ended up meeting their demise, but now into the gross realm and trying to maintain their control over their house, where the very place where they was actually able to form a family there as well, and then having to deal with the fact of them being dead and having to push out this weird little family unit that seems to be bringing all kinds of mischief and shenanigans into their home, ends up trying to enlist the help of a very criminally and despicable force named Beetlejuice.
And that's basically all sums up the original plot of the first movie. Tim Burton is a director who we haven't really discussed very much on this channel. The most closely that we briefly touched upon his work when we did the ranking of DC films, and of course he's most notable for the first two 1980 earlier installments of the Batman, his Batman movies, Batman Returns. The recent video that's like heads on, like mostly Tim Burton, that we reviewed on this channel was for Netflix's Wednesday series.
Yes. And if you're any familiar with a lot of Burton's work, it says they all have a unique gothic undertone that surrounds it in and of itself, and that is totally the whole core DNA of which permeates this particular film itself.
Now the story in Beetlejuice, it starts off with it takes place many decades later. Lydia Dietz, who played by Winona Ryder, returns to a role, is a much older person who is, let's say, became more accustomed with her spiritual prowess.
Yeah, that's right. Basically, being able to be in contact with the forces that she did with the earlier film has opened her horizons towards the spiritual realm.
Especially in her career.
Exactly. Her being able to utilize that to actually make a living. But that comes at the cost of her actual relationship with her very own daughter. That actually is a very important aspect of the story.
What kicks off the plot is that the family has to come together because of the loss of one of the Dietzes, the patriarch, Charles Dietz.
Who, given the background of what happened with the actor who ended up playing that character, this film does quite the job at basically approaching that particular whole right there, but in their own unique fashion that is a credible treat to behold.
But the family, they go back to the house of the Maitlands, which they reside for many years, and trying to when we bring it up together from Lydia's daughter and her own her adopted mother of Delia, a lot of baggage personal baggage starts to unfold. So before the end of the first act of this movie, I got really worried because the movie introduced like 5 different types of plot points right off the bat.
You never really know whether or not they're going to be able to address all the plot points they actually introduce, let alone be able to actively give each part their fair due in order to emphasize their meaning within the story itself. It's hard to be able to to cohesively do that for a series, let alone a hour or 2 hour film. It doesn't always work out. However, I would like to say that some the plot points they introduce within the storyline itself, within this particular outing, I think they do a decent job being able to, first and foremost, reintroduce you to the world that they brought you in the first time, and also flesh out certain aspects that helped you engage even newer audiences to be engaged with everything that's going on.
Yes, it actually quite expands upon the netherworld of the supernatural aspects to the film, and because I was very worried that they was going to just rehash like a lot of things that were made popular and when the first film came around, but it was actually quite introducing new elements that will help possibly give new life to this very old IP at this point.
And going into it, I feel as though going back on to exploring the world itself, like the first one, this one also brings in the concepts of the rules that revolve around the world of the dead. And I feel as though if they go ahead with a third outing, maybe going even harder on the rules that actually surrounds the applicant, the whole forces of being dead, is something they can really go hard on next time.
Clearly, this movie was made with passion.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't need to do it, but it's a welcome surprise that they did, and especially compared to many other legacy follow-ups.
I was actually pretty worried, just like you. I had my worries too, because I was like, the first film was so good, and then the way that it ended, it almost left it at a point. It's like, okay, so how much more story can you actually tell with these characters, especially with the concept in which what brought those characters together the first time. Mm-hmm. And he was really in a part where it could have honestly just have been retreading the same water, but no, the unique twists and antagonistic forces they put in this film actually differentiates it a little bit further from what they did the first story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But let's explore some of these characters. And Winona Ryder returns as Lilia Dietz,
mm-hmm.
grown up, as we said, with her own daughter.
And her own unique, unique skills and attributes.
She is still quirky.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so, but Winona Ryder herself is like that.
Yeah, she's if you know her from her interviews and definitely the roles that she likes to pick, it's typical Winona Ryder fashion.
She's having
a unique renaissance in herself
because of her work in Stranger Things on Netflix as well.
However, I would like to point out that the variation of Lydia that she turns in for this film is a little bit of a
toned down.
I wouldn't say toned down. It's actually more as if she used too much of her story plot points that she used for other characters, such as she played for in the mom in Stranger Things, compared to what I actually would have thought an older version of Lydia would have been from the first film.
More reserved than what you would have expected.
Yeah, at first, the first outing with Lydia, she had such a strength behind her and such a fierce attitude behind her gothic nature. So it's like for her to have lost some of that with the plot points that they actually deal with her in this film is a little bit of a letdown in a certain sense.
Though when they start discussing some of the
why
issues,
she went there,
the gap, the decades, that gap,
it makes sense.
But it would be nice to have actually still
that part, some of that original Lydia should have still been in that role. And I just feel as though they lost so much of it doing this version.
But luckily, the energy is still kept up with the film with the titular character of Beetlejuice, returning again by Michael Keaton. He don't skip a beat. He doesn't
at all.
No,
this one, I felt like he was Beetlejuice in the first one. He's definitely Beetlejuice now.
Mm-hmm. And unapologetic as ever before.
Exactly.
And it's very assuring to see just how much a much older actor who can still keep up with his a lively, unique performance that he helped define for decades.
Exactly.
And also returning is Catherine O'Hara as Delia Dietz.
I love her. She's so cool. And she is a complete scene stealer. Whenever she's on screen, she's just that. She's a turn of force in of herself. I love her.
She's a comedic gold mine.
Exactly.
And every like the writing, like
the quips.
I would not be surprised if with her, Michael Keaton, and her and Michael Keaton.
You can have a whole movie just with them alone, and I would be just, oh my god.
Pretty sure a lot of this stuff was improvised. And
oh, you know it. You absolutely know. They could have had most of that stuff on the script, and everybody was just like, it's go, just put it in there.
Yeah, and the direction they take with her character in this one, is part of some of the reasons why we will like to explore another follow up. But the person who actually really kicks off the actual push the movie forward.
The agency of it
is the character of Astrid Dietz, who is Winona Ryder's daughter, played by Jenna Ortega.
Now, if you've seen Jenna Ortega's work before, you know darn well that she was bringing it in this one. Yeah, I was a little bit concerned, considering that was like, okay, she's already doing Wednesday Addams. Is she going to bring that same energy in here in Beetlejuice? And no, it actually is a unique aspect that she's actually doing for this particular story. So, if anything,
she's like the Jenna Ortega is playing a character who will be against Wednesday because of like how alternative that she is her character is compared to her mother.
Yep.
But there's as the film goes out, there's similarities to that she develops that same thing as her.
It's a lot of basically what you saw from Winona Ryder's first outing in leading is actually really within the character of her daughter in this one.
But as far as her like character disappointments goes and why we're addressed like the plot points that were introduced. One of the plot points that's introduced revolve around the Monica Bellucci's character.
Yeah, her connections to Beetlejuice, though, were interesting, and was actually something that I was actually looking forward to actually seeing, expressed a little bit further. It takes a complete, side seat towards everything else that's going on, as to the point that it's like you originally would have thought that she would have been more than the main antagonistic force within this film. She really isn't.
No, it's actually like by the movie end, it's like the way they handle it is like it ends up being a very like
a lackluster concept, wrap up.
And to the point that I could have actually seen this movie could have easily played out the same way even without that character. That's how much of a throwaway that character is.
Honestly,
but other characters like who played by Willem Dafoe and Justin Theroux, nice additions. The way they turn their characters are predictable, but they were fun. They stuck with the vibe of what was going on in the movie.
There was a particular character that was also introduced in this film that I did actually really enjoy, and the twist that comes with that character is something that I feel as though was quite genius for the way and the story plot points for what was going on. So when you come across this character, definitely that's a highlight.
Yeah, it revolves around Jenna Ortega's Astrid character. What is part of the reason why the movie really gets going is because of her plot line. Production wise, Tim Burton.
It's all the things you expect out of a Tim Burton film. The dark palettes, the gothic overtones, the quirkiness that comes from his world and his ideas. It's all there.
Wonderful to see a film that like of this scale to be done mostly practical.
Oh yes.
From miniature sets to stop motion to even a lot of the gags. Very minimal CGI is actually very minimal, especially in these day and age. To actually see was essentially as a live action cartoon on display.
Yes.
Especially with all the antics that Beetlejuice is able to do.
Which I feel as though, again, going into a sequel, they need to explain why is he this dang powerful? This dude is a gothic Toon Force. I say it here now. How did he get there? And I feel as though that could have been something that would have been introduced with the character of Monica Bellucci's. But, it is what it is.
Similar to how when the first film came out, the production being that was like a PG movie, which pushed the envelopes from there. This being PG-13, I'm surprised at how this movie...
They got away with a lot of the stuff they did.
Because, the movie is actually a lot more bloodier than what you expect.
A little bit darker, too.
Well, yeah, it's a horror comedy. I suspected it to be.
We're in a unique transition in our world in which we're able to have these kinds of stories come to the silver screen and small screen. And people are just eating them up.
Yeah. And of course the music of this. Jenny Elfman returns to score the movie as well, who's also a very constant for Tim Burton movies.
Yep.
They do similar to that. What they did with the Deo sequence, that was the highlight of that film. They do a different song.
Mm-hmm. And I love that sequence.
It was nice.
It was a very great sequence.
It's a good thing that they did. They do something that's different, but it's plot centric, so it's even worse.
And even more so, it works for the characters. So it's very on brand.
Yeah. At the end, we were welcomingly surprised.
Yep.
And with some. Well, at the end, some
there were some speed bumps.
Ended up being unnecessary, especially with how the runtime of this film is. It could have been left without it, but I was happy enough to see it, and I that feels like this is also going to be a returning, constant like a holiday special like the first film.
Oh yeah,
like that. This is a great movie.
Yep, definitely so. I can't agree more. But are you guys fans of the Beetlejuice or Tim Burton universe? If so, let us know down there in the bottom for more notifications. We want to hear from you guys. Please, again, notifications. Hit that bell down there if you want more content just like this.
If you want to see or interact with us even more so, we also have social media outlets of X, Letterboxd, and Instagram for content we don't necessarily show on this channel as well.
Yeah, as always, I always say it down. There's only so many hours in the day, not enough time to do it all, but we're here for y'all.
My name is Adam.
And I'm Aaron.
This has been a Seeking Me production.
See y'all later.